Hi, and welcome to the new State House in Boston. The new State House was built in 1798. We don't want to confuse it with the old State House, which is still here, and that will be on another video. The old State House, built in 1713. The new State House is still used as a State House today. It was built on Beacon Hill, which used to be property of John Hancock. In fact, John Hancock's mansion stood next to the State House up until 1863 when it was torn down. On his deathbed, John Hancock wanted to will, or he asked to will the mansion to be used as this governor's mansion for the state. However, it didn't get put to paper in time before he died, so it eventually got torn down, much to the dismay of many historians. So it kind of prompted a movement to save some of the historic sites in Boston, thank goodness. So the State House had an original dome of wood, and by 1802 that was fitted in copper by Paul Revere's foundry. By 1874 the dome was gilded in gold leaf. During the World War II, the dome was painted gray so that it wouldn't reflect light during a blackout, and so that it couldn't be seen from the plane to be bombed to protect it. In front of the State House, there are several statues. We'll just kind of go down the row and talk about each one very shortly. There's one of Henry Cabot Lodge. He was the first man to receive a PhD at Harvard, but he was also the running mate with Nixon against John F. Kennedy. And we all know who won that election, right? And standing next to him is the winner of that election, and that is John F. Kennedy, who was a Massachusetts senator for several years before becoming a president. Next to that, we have Anne Hutchinson. And if you don't know who Anne Hutchinson was, she was considered a heretic back in the 1600s. She was a mother of 14, but she was preaching in her home to people, and she was going against the Puritan doctrine. So they didn't like that too much, so they banished her from Boston. She ends up going down to Rhode Island, and then eventually she ends up in New Amsterdam, which is New York. It was originally called New Amsterdam. But it is there she is massacred by Indians. They come into her home and kill her and most of her children except for one daughter, who was later adopted by the Indian tribe and then released. There's also a statue of a man named Horace Mann. He's considered the father of education. There's a statue of Daniel Webster. And Daniel Webster was a congressman, and he also served as Secretary of State under 3 different presidents. Mary Dyer is another statue. Mary Dyer, another heretic. She was a Quaker, and Quakerism was not allowed in Puritan Boston. So she was banished 3 times, but she kept coming back. And on her 3rd return, they eventually hung her on the Boston Common on the Great Elm, of course. Remember the Great Elm. There's also a statue of General Hooker, who was a general in the Civil War for the Union soldiers. It always cracks me up that we drive by the State House and we're going past it on Beacon Street. There is an entrance to the State House that's called the Hooker entrance, the General Hooker entrance, and it always gets a laugh. Also, something very exciting, in 2014, a time capsule was found. They were having some plumbing issues, and so they were doing some construction on the State House, and they found this box. But it wasn't the first time the box was found. It was discovered that in 1855, the box was also found due to some construction work being done on the building. But very exciting. The box was planted there by Paul Revere, Samuel Adams, and a man named William Scully. And inside the box, there was lots of coins. There were also coins, shillings, I guess are called. Pine tree shillings, they called them, from 1625. Can you believe that? Some of the coins are out of copper, and the coins, they think that the copper coins helped protect the documents. So there were some newspaper articles in there, as well as a silver plate which they assume was probably created by Paul Revere since he was also a silversmith. So that's pretty exciting. So they've put the box back in, and then who knows when it will be discovered again. So that's the new State House. Our next stop will be the Park Street Church.